first I would like to thank everyone for choosing this talk instead of one open match, multiplayer matching game with Unity and Google. This sounds fun. Well, so my name is Kelvin, I'm from Italium, and I'll be presenting about opportunities of blockchain identity in the gaming industry. So how many of you know blockchain? I see some hands. Okay, Bitcoin, Ethereum, engine token. All right, so one person. So you might be wondering, what does blockchain identity have anything to do with gaming industry? Or even before that, what do I even mean by blockchain identity? So first, I'm going to go through a meta history of identity. So before the internet, IDs were restricted to government-issued IDs, from paper-based to card IDs. These were used to prove one's social status, or age, or birthday, or address. But with the advent of the internet, online IDs were created. People created multiple IDs and passwords to use multiple services and games. Now, as the technology developed, online IDs also experienced some transformation. As pseudo-structural multiple IDs and passwords were just hassle for users, they created something called Identity Provider Model, or the IDP, where users can only use one ID and password to log into different services, such as Facebook. So IDP models are heaven. They're easy to implement and use. So a lot of service providers and game publishers, they use the IDP model to onboard new users. But there's always a security and consent issue. For example, a login with Facebook, it's operated with a feature called OAuth, which uses access tokens. So stolen access tokens or credentials from hacked account can lead to data breach on Facebook, which can also affect third-party applications. So this puts service providers and users in a high security of data exposure and hacking. And we all know that this easy-to-implement and use method of authentication has recently been exposed with hacking incidents. The fact that users and the service providers won't even know that they haven't breached up until the time that their actual harm has been caused is just one problem. Well, the other problem is consent. See, the online IDs, it's users who created them with their personal data. But without users' consent, IDP can terminate an account or terminate the service itself, which also terminates the user and the service provider relationship. So with blockchain, these issues can be resolved. Blockchain can simply replace IDP with a suitable architecture and smart contract. Immutable public ledger combined with a PKI algorithm can provide a high level of security and reliable authentication. Also, as a decentralized identity, or a DID we call it, users and service providers do not need to rely on a single IDP. There is no centralized IDP, the one that manages users' IDs in a DID. All the information of personal data and user data are stored securely in mobile devices. Also, one of the key components of DID is consent. As users are the creators and the owners of their identity, they must have full control. So the users and the service providers do not need to rely on IDP, shutting down an account, rely on IDP or worry about IDP, shutting down an account or terminating its service. So well, as I said, I will give you a short presentation. Well, this is our product. You can upload a photo of your passport. It's KYC compatible in the blockchain industry. It provides security, authentication, immutability. Well, guys, I was just joking. This isn't our product. But this is what most of the identity blockchains are like. They focus heavily on digitizing government-issued IDs like passports. Also, security, authentication, and immutability are just basics for blockchain identity. Also, digital transformation of government-issued data like passports creates an origin issue. You know, like governments need to accept those IDs as a valid form of ID in order for users to use them, or in order for service providers to accept them. Which means that it works well in the private blockchain level, where all the actors in the ecosystem agree to accept such form of ID. Which also means that if those blockchain identity projects do not shake hands with all the governments in the world, those identity projects will remain as a limited service to limited users. See, with Ethereum, we wanted to be different. We didn't want to be limited. We had to take out the idea that government issued data are the only things that represents us. Also, Ethereum is a public blockchain where all the users, where users from anywhere, from everywhere, must be able to create and use ID. So digital transformation of government issued data isn't our priority. Then we have to think about what represents individuals. Government issued data like passports or driver license, SIN number, which we call mundane identities, are obviously things that represents us. But then identity is a broad topic. Rather than being restricted to what we are defined, we must define ourselves based on our actions and preferences, which we call virtual identities. For example, the fact that I like basketball, or I'm a meat lover. In games, it's like if I like shooting games or RPG games, I'm identified as someone that likes shooting games or RPG games. And if I'm a grandmaster in Battlegrounds, my offline and online friends, gaming friends, will identify me as a grandmaster in Battlegrounds. See, we want individuals to have ownership of these virtual identities. We want individuals to own and manage these virtual identities of not just in the gaming industry, in the e-commerce, O2O services, or in a P2P relationship. And as more and more users accumulate their data via virtual identities via our Meta ID, it will lead to a context network, which meaning that our blockchain identity project will become more meaningful and useful for everyday life. However, as I said before, virtual identities, these are non-certifiable, but the context network will provide a framework to determine individuals' attributes. For example, how many of you guys watch NBA? Like 2 I see, okay. Hockey? Any show? No one? Football? Okay. So let's say, I'm from Toronto, city in Canada. So let's say that I'm a Raptors fan. I don't expect you to trust me based on my words, right? But then if my Meta ID shows that I bought the Raptors season pass for the past 5 years, it clearly provides a framework that I'm a guy who likes basketball and who cheers for Raptors. So to enable this, we have created an achievement and claim mechanism to manage these virtual identities. Claims are requested by users, and they are issued by service providers or attestation agencies. And claims are data written on blockchain, verified by claim issuers like game publishers. And connected to claims to foster relationship between users and service providers, we have created a feature called achievement. So achievement is a reward mechanism triggered by a claim. Achievements are designed by service providers to incentivize users to use their service. See, we chose this path because mundane data, or our data from the government issued data, are very limited. Instead, we have chosen to broaden the definition of virtual identity to build a context network. So then why gaming? Well, first, for gamers, their virtual IDs or game IDs are really meaningful to them. It shows their experience, skills, or their preferences. And second, gamers have already adopted the tokens. So in-game diamonds and golds are used to buy items to compete with each other. Third, gamers include a wide range of age groups. You don't need government-issued identity to play the games. And fourth, variety of efficient or fun achievement and claim mechanism can be designed. And fifth, your character already represents you. So number 1 to 3 are pretty straightforward. So I'll go deep about 4 and 5. So this is an achievement and claim example for game publisher and game developer relationship. So let's say I'm a game publisher that is about to issue an indie game, release an indie game. So I want to run a code review from a third party. So I register my claim stating that I will issue a claim to a developer who conducts a code review. And I also register achievement with the reward and connect it with the claim. And I put a filter on that stating that I only want to show this achievement to a developer who has more than 5 claims related to this topic because I want to target the right users. And a developer with enough claims sees this new achievement, and then he will conduct a code review, and he will send me the results. And if it's legit, I provide him with the reward and the claim. See, another example is between a game publisher and a gamer relationship. Let's say if Battleground wants to incentivize users with more than 10,000 kills, they go through the same procedure of registering, claiming achievement. And users that achieve the goal will receive the claim and reward. But you know, providing only claims and achievement will not be fun, will not be meaningful. Claims and achievement can only be meaningful when there's a community where gamers can gather and interact with each other based on claims that they have gained from different games. Now, with the claims that identifies gamers through the game community blockchain that we will announce, players can find other players and request for coaching, or players can find other players with the same level and form a team and play together. So besides claims, we want to emphasize that besides claim-based community, we want to emphasize that your characters also represent you. In fact, they are your properties. And with Meta ID, everyone will have their avatars. We currently have in-house avatars, and we are planning on a bounty program that will incentivize designers to create avatars for Metadian. Also, we're talking with one of the major character companies so that we can provide a wide range of selection for users to select, buy, or trade, or customize their avatars. And our SDK will enable game developers to utilize users' game avatars, like users' avatars, on their games. This will provide a whole new experience for game users, gamers, as they will be able to play multiple games with the very own avatar that they have created, or use it, or customized. We cannot make a game like Ready Player One at the moment. But this avatar feature, which lets users to play multiple games with their characters, we believe will be the beginning. Thank you. And that's about it.